You're listening to the Microsoft Innovation Podcast, where we explore the intersection of people, business, and technology. This year, we're adding a new show to our lineup, The AI Advantage, to help you learn the skills you need to thrive in the AI era.
Welcome to the MVP Show. My intention is that you listen to the stories of these MVP guests and are inspired to become an MVP and bring value to the world through your skills. If you have not checked it out already, I do a YouTube series called How to Become an MVP. The link is in the show notes. With that, let's get on with the show. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Microsoft Innovation Podcast. Today we're heading to Telford, England to meet someone who's been shaping the Microsoft ecosystem from the inside out. Please welcome Alex, Chief Strategist for Microsoft at Softcat and a long-standing Microsoft MVP. Alex has spent years helping organizations and especially schools get the most out of Microsoft 365, whether it's streamlining classroom management or rethinking how AI fits into the modern workplace. You'll find him right at the intersection of strategy and innovation. Lately, he's been diving deep into Copilot's real-world impact and how governance frameworks needs to evolve to keep up. Fun fact, he once mapped a version of Teams becoming an operating system, literally. Full links are in the show notes. Alex, before we get into AI and ethics, what's one tech habit you've picked up lately that's even surprised you?
Well, first, thank you for having me on the show. Just to say that, so thank you very much. I guess to answer your question, I love Claude. Claude is my preferred AI model to go to. I'm sure people prefer ChatGPT. Some people may well prefer Copilot, both the personal version or the corporate version, but mine is Claude. And to go to that and to be able to ask it, not to necessarily just go off and answer a question for you or to build something, but to give it to you as an interactive HTML page. So think about the kind of questions you're asking. Can you ask it to go and use a JS model, go off and ask it to build you a single HTML page? And the interaction and the way you can learn from whatever that content is so much more powerful than just a prompt or just an output. But that interactive web page that it can go off and build really surprises me in the ability to be able to go off and do that. As an example, I did Microsoft licensing, build me a network graph based on the Microsoft licensing between M365 Business Premium, E3 and E5, and you may well see something that's quite cool.
This is amazing. This is what makes I'd happily hang up the call from here, because it's tips like this that I find so powerful. So let me just unpack what I understood you just said. When you do your prompt, you ask it to, if you're going to learn a new subject or wanting to think about something, you are asking it to create an interactive web page that you can then learn the topic or the concept on. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a YouTuber that I watch called Wes Roth, slight tongue twister for me there, but he's absolutely brilliant because he does a lot of testing and teaches me all sorts of stuff that you can go off and do from a coding point of view. Now, I don't mean Visual Studio Code and Canvas and all that kind of stuff. This is directly within the AI model. So yeah, you can go off and you can say, build me a HTML file on that subject. Do me one of them I played with recently, do me an OEM, so a devices, so Dell, Surface, HP, do me a report and put that into a set of graphs and put it into a HTML page. I can then save that as a PDF file and I can send that internally to wherever I need to be able to go off and do it. One of the ones that Wes did, he asked it to build out an ant colony and how it would find a piece of food. And all of a sudden, you can see how ants, where they go off and they scatter, one of them finds a bit of food, and gradually over time, you get to see how the ants go off and start collectively and working to build that food and to bring it back to the nest. And then he said, well, go off and make it 2 times, 5 times quicker and add more ants, add less ants. And that's kind of the interactive web page. But think of that as a resource to be able to teach kids to go off and build things. But it's no about, I did an article, interestingly, on my newsletter on LinkedIn about should we be learning more about web standards as part of prompting? Because think about the outputs that you may well get from ideas that you've just got now. So get into ChatGPT, get into Claude. The reason why I like Claude as well, though, is because it's got these artifacts features. So the artifacts is when it writes the code, you can then go off and you can view it within Claude rather than having to take it to an external web page.
I like it. I've got subscriptions across most of the main tooling out there. Definitely, I have one for Claude, and I use ChatGPT a lot, and of course Copilot. And I'm even using Grok a bit lately. I do find each one has its unique place. I suppose the one I'm least deep in is Gemini.
Do you know what? I'm exactly the same, but I actually want to get into it. It's one of the leaders out there, want to know more about it. And I guess time, when we've both already chatted before this, we've got young kids. And certainly the young kids take away from the time we've been able to do a bit more innovation and be able to go off and do that bit more deeper research into things like Gemini and what Google are doing. But what Google are doing are making me think maybe I shouldn't have an iPhone anymore, because the AI and what they're pushing makes me go, actually, I'm not quite excited by that, whether I see nothing from an Apple point of view.
Totally right. What a letdown Apple's been in the last 12 months. I usually upgrade. I'm one of those people that upgrade every year, and I've not upgraded because I'm like, I can't see any benefits to upgrade. There's no net new. For me, it was always the camera. It's a brilliant tool for video and images, but definitely let down nowadays with that, Apple.
Indeed. Apple have got a big conference next week. I'm expecting a lot. Otherwise, they're going to lose a customer, I'm afraid. I'll probably still have my iPad, but there's some things I can't get rid of. But the AI rate...
I use it less nowadays, though, iPad even.
Yeah, no, I agree. I use it more for styling and maybe if I'm doing some cooking, got YouTube playing or something like that. So it's not there necessarily from an AI point of view. It's there to consume content more than necessarily anything else.
Tell me about AI productivity. And I find the word productivity can generate emotion in some people quite strongly, in that you will have people that say that I'm super productive. Why are you trying to make me more productive and using AI to make me more productive? How about you let me just get home to my kids at a reasonable hour rather than the amount of overtime I'm doing, just getting through the repetitive, mundane work. And so I've seen this move from the concept of productivity then to let's talk about efficiency. And then I was at a conference in Poros last week in Slovenia, and a Microsoft Copilot person presented. And she said, well, is efficiency a higher enough goal, or should it be effectiveness? And I'm like, okay, what do you mean by this? This is a real interesting nuance and play here. And she was saying, so let's say you had an all-hands meeting every fortnight, and the team comes together, have an all-hands, everyone Q&As as part of that. And we decide to implement a chatbot to replace the all-hands meeting. Now, is it more efficient? Because anybody can ask their questions anytime. It's more efficient. But is that more effective because now you've moved the whole people relationship that was happening in that event? And I was like, that's such an interesting nuance, is that should we be aiming for effectiveness? And then I've even gone beyond that as I've unpacked it on the way home and said, should we be looking at how AI becomes part of purpose for an organization? And rather than just, productivity, rather than just efficiency, effectiveness, but really how do we create more human purpose by using AI in the mix? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the two things come to mind there. The first is that you've got individual productivity and you've got business productivity. So being able to split out the two, I think, is quite important. That individual productivity, to be able to go off and to improve somebody's work-life balance, all those kind of things is one, as a very quick summary. And that business productivity, how can I do things better? How can I increase my what I do from a user-based point of view, my customers, my business processes? Can I improve those things? And AI isn't the first thing to come in place to be able to say, let's make it more productive. Interestingly, yesterday I went to a garden centre. I took my 6-year-old with me there, and she's like, what's that, Daddy? And I was like, that's a typewriter. And she was actually like, how? She's like pressing the individual buttons and like couldn't understand the concept of it. So we've gone through productivity before, where we've gone from a typewriter to a computer, and obviously we've got 30 years worth of history at least of of computers and typing in from a keyboard point of view. And AI is just another transformational tool to support the individual to be able to do things better. I've heard Microsoft recently talk about how they want to build Copilot and AI just so it's like another set of features into Word and Excel, rather than something that's built on top of, oh, we've just added a bit of AI on top. No, we want it natively in the applications, and we want you to see it as if it's a native set of features within the productivity applications. So I think we see it more from that user point of view, and users will go off and take advantage of that AI side of things. You can go off and do Teams meetings, recordings. Yes, great, you can do these things, and those are the standard things. And I kind of call them the foundations now. I think everybody knows that. People don't want demos of those things now. What are the true productivity gains now? This is something I'm a little bit more passionate about, looking more at that agentic AI. How can agents actually help you to be more productive now? You're working on a ISO standard. Let's say it's ISO 42001. That's the AI standards that are out there. Would you build an agent to help you to have a conversation to know hang on a minute, I'm doing this document. Can you tell me whether I'm hitting this particular set of standards? That's a true productivity gain. If you're building agentic AI that goes off and does tasks for you, or even autonomous agents, that is where we're going to see real, true transformation, productivity, efficiency gains that support both the individual, but also that business side of things.
You mentioned the ISO standard, which was music to my ears, because you're probably the first person I've come across it that's brought it up rather than me bringing it up in conversation in the last 6 weeks. Are you doing much in that space with that new ISO AI standard that's come out?
It's something we see. So my job is to go off and speak to customers. I'm almost an evangelist as a job. So I get the great benefit of talking to not just education establishment now, but legal firms and all sorts of different types of businesses. And I think because the rate of AI is going so fast at the moment, to do a particular ISO standard related to AI is quite difficult, because hang on a minute, that's something new. Where does it go off and do those kind of side of things? And just to give you as an example, is that if you started looking at all the applications you've got on what's got AI, you can probably quickly go, yeah, they've got an agent, yeah, they've got something that's built into it. But you need to be assessing what models that they're using and where are they using that model. So let's just say there's a company out there, they've built a SaaS solution, it's holding your personal data, but they're using Claude to be able to go off and assess it. Well, Claude's got an API, he's got the API key, it goes off, but that's a consumer service using now your personal data to be able to go off and assess it. So should we be going off and asking what models you're using? Where is it being hosted? How is it protecting my personal data? So to go off and deliver an ISO standard when people don't have that understanding that they need to go off and do that, both from a legal point of view and a technical point of view, is a challenge. So when I give that challenge to customers as part of my call, they're going, we're not ready for ISO standards yet. AI is too big at this moment in time. We need to get a grip of application standards, application policies. What does it mean to use different language models? Agentic. And so many people don't even know that you get Copilot Studio with your Microsoft 365 Copilot license. So when you give them that, they're going, hang on, I'm going to go and resolve that issue now, rather than necessarily looking at the ISO standard. So that's my experience, but I'd love to hear yours as well.
Interesting. The reason I'm deep in it is that we're building an AI management system designed for enterprise customers to manage all the, as I'm going to say manage, to be able to report on, show due diligence across, and, trustworthy AI at the end of the day, no matter what the workload. So being able to audit themselves, maturity model, and then where are they using it? One of the pushbacks I've seen on Microsoft Copilot from organizations is that there's no clear what model is being used behind Copilot, and therefore companies are going, you know what, we'd rather build our own chat solution, let's say in something like Foundry in Azure, because we at least can choose our models, we know what they are, that type of thing, where Microsoft is really, because it's a SaaS solution that you're getting with Copilot, there's a lack of, if you like, traceability on what's been used for the different, components of Copilot, the native M365 Copilot I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the thing, is that when you're going off and you're using Microsoft's Copilot, they're looking after the model. They're looking after the orchestration layer. They're looking after the safety and all that kind of side of things. But that's where agents sit in really nicely, because you can bring your own agents into Word, into PowerPoint. I think you can now do it in Excel as well. You can build your agents, as you mentioned, inside of Azure AI Foundry. You can state, this is the model. This is where I want the model to be hosted. And just as an example, speaking to a legal firm, let's say that there's a set of solicitors that are dealing with child matters. And you ask Copilot to go and assess those files, it can't. It's got content in it that cannot be assessed by the AI models, because Microsoft has set that orchestration layer to say, we're not allowing that content. Wherefore, you can go and build an agent inside of Azure AI. You can set the content layers, all that kind of stuff. You've got to build the compliancy as well, because you want to make sure that they're using it in an ethical kind of way. But it does enable you to be able to go off and do that. So yes, I've been challenged by organizations of what model is it using. I'm saying, don't worry about that. I don't want to have to say that to you, but that's Microsoft dealing with that. They will bring what they think is best and the right things. They'll go off and do testing, and they will bring it an out-of-the-box feature. If you need to be able to have more of that granular control, Azure AI Foundry. And the other challenge I get around that is that I need it to only be UK-focused. I'm in the UK, live in England, speak to defence organisations as an example. We need to only have this AI only working in the UK. And Microsoft say, well, it's within GDPR. That means it could go to a European data center to be processed. And I go, well, I can't have that. So that's where, again, Azure AI Foundry comes in, because you could be more precise.
Now, you mentioned an EU standard there, like GDPR. And of course, the EU AI Act has come out. And explicitly, how do you think UK businesses are looking at that? Are they like, well, not part of the EU, so we don't care? What's the play from a, because I know that the UK are getting their act together. They've released, I don't know, in the last 9 months or so, some detailed documents. I wouldn't call them white papers, but pieces on how they're thinking of AI. What are you seeing from UK businesses?
They're just consuming it, is what I'm seeing. The innovation's going on outside of the UK, and let's be honest, it's probably happening outside of the EU. What you're seeing from an innovation point of view is a war between America and China. It's interesting to see a lot of the Middle East now making agreements that go off and enable them to be able to use more of these AI tools. It's really interesting to hear that the UAE are going to give everybody in their country ChatGPT Pro, right? Wherefore, you're never going to see this thing. I think it's amazing. I think it's going to completely change how people go off and do it. I guess my question is, who's actually seeing what prompts they're making? And does it go to the government or not? But that's something I've not done my own research into, so I can't really form an opinion on that. From an EU and a UK point of view, I guess the people that are looking at that guidance are more public sector. What is it that the UK is saying? What is it that we consume from an EU point of view? Because there's all sorts of agreements between the UK and the EU that we still consume certain things. One, as an example, autonomous cars. You still can't do autonomous cars inside the UK like you can in the US, because the EU have said, well, we'll just follow them kind of side of things. So there's a big kind of understanding of, you know what, we'll follow what the EU are doing. We'll follow to see what they're saying. The UK will still come out with something and do their own thing and say what it is. I think we've got bigger challenges because I think we've got the knowledge to be able to build our own AI solutions. It's just too expensive inside the UK. We're the most expensive country in the world from an energy point of view and costs. That's not going to drive innovation as much inside the UK or inside of the EU. Public sector are the ones that keep it. Don't really hear much from the private sector.
Yeah. We're about 3 years into the Gen AI story, and, Copilot from Microsoft's side is about, what is it, a year and a half old maybe, and it's been a market. What are you seeing from organizations around their maturity or their capacity to, is it still they're worried about being left behind, so the fear of missing out? What are you seeing in the market? As I mentioned in the intro there, around frameworks and the need for ways of thinking about how AI is implemented in organizations. What are you coming across?
Yeah, there's kind of 2 or 3 trends. I've got some organizations that are really kind of fast forward thinking. They're saying to me, Alex, why are Microsoft so slow? And it's because they're building these solutions. They've got to spend time. They've got to make sure it works with their current code base, put in the right governance and controls, and support Microsoft to be able to go off and say, you know what, when we deliver it to you, we're going to deliver it to you in a GDPR standard. But it means that we're not going to deliver it on a day one. So that's kind of my first set of customers. Then they're a smaller set. I've got some customers that are going off and just using Copilot, using it in Word, using Excel. And they're probably sitting there with 50 odd users going, I'm not sure if I got any value out of it. So I jump on a call. I talk to them and saying, well, what is it you're spending? What do you know about the product set? And I don't talk about Copilot necessarily. I talk about Microsoft AI architecture, because we've got to talk about Copilot plus PCs. What does that mean for the enterprise? Lenovo have told me that 60% of the devices that they're going to ship at the end of 2026, so we're talking 18 months away now, 60% of them are going to be Copilot PCs, AI-focused machines. So potentially in 3 years, all devices are going to be AI-focused devices. So what is that as part of your policies and processes moving forwards? Most people aren't even thinking about that, not even aware that, oh, we'll leave that for now. Well, you can't leave it for too long because the market's changing to be able to go off and deliver that. As part of your Copilot, are you aware of actions and notebooks and Copilot Studio and agents? And their answer is no. What's that? And I'm like, well, it's part of the $30 per user per month that you're spending. How do you not know this? And it's one of my criticisms in a nice way towards Microsoft is you talk about what's going on with Microsoft 365 as a Copilot, as a set of products within Word and Excel and PowerPoint, but you're not telling anybody what you get within the full licensing stack, which includes that Copilot Studio and all that. So that is very much probably more I'd probably say about 80% of my conversation is giving them that understanding of, let's go from the foundations of talking about your data and what you can do and how you can talk to that, all the way through to what it is to have the researcher and the analyst, which are the 2 big agents that have come out and gone generally available for everybody in the last 48 hours around the world, through to building your own agents and that maturity kind of side of things. And then I guess that last few ones is those organizations are, we're going to do AI now. We feel ready for it. We feel that we understand what's going on more in the marketplace. And they've got a bit more of that kind of confidence that, you know what, we are now ready for an organization. Let's start moving on and understanding what it is. Let's take down the barriers that we put in place. Well, we need to understand what it is and how it works. And you still have to go off and tell them that actually their understanding is wrong. That's me being polite. But you've got to ensure that you know what the product is, that, oh, Microsoft will be training our data and it's going off to a consumer service. No, it's not. It's like, well, it is, because that's what it says with Copilot Pro. And I'm like, yeah, but Copilot Pro is a personal set of features that you buy as an individual. Your corporate versions are very different. So using that same name still causes confusion as well.
Alex, we're over time. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, and I hope we have many more conversations in the future.
Anytime, more than happy to jump on.
Hey, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Business Application MVP Mark Smith, otherwise known as the NZ365 Guy. If you like the show and want to be a supporter, check out buymeacoffee.com/NZ365 Guy. Thanks again, and see you next time.
Are you ready to accelerate your career in the Microsoft ecosystem? The 90-Day Mentoring Challenge, created by Mark Smith, is your opportunity to create a personalized pathway to success. Join over 1,200 alumni from more than 70 countries who have achieved remarkable results, from promotions to new job opportunities Take it from Nathan, who said, since completing the 90-day mentoring challenge, I've become an MVP in business applications and doubled my income. Or from Parves, who shares, I've never felt as inspired or energized about my career as I do now. Sign up at arcor.nz365guide.com. You can find the link in the show notes. And if you use the code podcast, you'll get 10% off.